Brett Dolan with us, play-by-play, touchdown radio, perfect game, Arkansas Razorback sports, and we always like to play Where in the World is Brett Dolan, so that's always going to be the first question. Brett, where in the world are you?
I'm back in the natural state for at least 24 hours, so it's good to be back.
Wow, what actually brings you back right now?
Well, I don't know. We started a new year. We're back at our offices. We're doing our thing. And even though you've got the game tonight and I don't, we're still grinding for what's next, what's on tap.
Yeah, well, there's lots on tap, aren't there?
Hey, did you watch any of this Ohio State game yesterday? And just the outside presence, the physicality, number 2 and number 4. I mean, those receivers going forward. If you man any one of those guys up, you're toast. And then Junkins might not be their best running back. 32 might be Ohio State's best running back. But is Ohio State the hottest team in the country right now?
Well, they have to be. And I think the frustrating part, Matt, all year has been those two receivers and those two running backs are elite. And Jeremiah Smith, as a freshman, has been fantastic. Ibuka has been really good. Howard's had a hard time getting the ball to them. He had one 300-yard passing game all year, and now he's gone back-to-back with 300-plus, and their weapons. And that combination of Howard, the two running backs, the two receivers look fantastic. So for them to take a team that had been the one school, one program all year that didn't have a blemish and put them down 34-0 before halftime was just incredible to watch. Oregon looked like the Big Ten teams from yesteryear that lumbered out of the snow and were down 17 points to a Pac-12 team before they knew what hit them. The only problem was that was a really good Oregon team, but an even better Ohio State team, at least right now.
We're prisoners of the moment with what we last saw. You know, if you were to transport yourself to a month ago, would you thought Ohio State would look as good as they did right now or even still be playing? You know, it's like, and Texas is the team that, man, they play down to their level of competition, which also makes me wonder if they can play up to that level of competition, which feels weird when you're talking about a team that's that talented, but going up against Ohio State, that is playing up. So I really don't know what to expect, because if you go by what you last saw, so often you're going to be wrong.
Well, we do it all the time, and I think it's in part why this year has been so difficult to make predictions for those that like to bet for the same thing. If you think about it, without a 12-team playoff, Ohio State would have been in the Cheez-It Bowl. I'm sorry, Penn State would have been in the Cheez-It Bowl rather than Illinois against South Carolina, because they would have lost to Ohio State. Ohio State would have been dealing with, can Ryan Day even stick around and continue to take this program to another level? And he's on the verge of maybe running them into a national championship game. And things change. And to your point, Phil, in regards to Texas, I think having them twice late in the year, the thought was they couldn't run the football enough in some big games to win. So they go out and run for 350 against Clemson. And your thought is, well, they figured it out. They're facing a non-SEC opponent. Look at them. And they were right back into their issues yesterday, running the football, and found a way to win enough plays and to make enough plays to win that game. But that Texas team was really hard to figure out. Quinn Ewers was terrible at times, and yet he made 5 or 6 plays, really good plays, when they absolutely had to have it to win games. So it is really tough, I think, to try and figure this out week to week. And I'm with you. We react. We see what happened, and then we try and figure out how that portends to the next week ahead. And it's getting even more difficult to figure it out when we don't know a lot about Boise State or Arizona State. But then we're seeing an Ohio State team that looks entirely different than they were against Michigan, and a Texas team that really does ride that roller coaster up and down.
I wonder how much, too, you see this in professional sports, whether it be the World Series or the NBA Finals. One team might get 12 days rest. One team might get 3 days rest. And it's kind of, was there too much rest? All the home teams won in the first round. All the teams that had the extra rest in the bye, they have lost so far. Does that trend continue? Does Georgia take another L for a clean sweep?
Well, that's an interesting matchup, because I think it kind of gets back into the baseball playoffs that Phil and I talk about, where the team that ends up getting the bye doesn't take full advantage, and they end up looking rusty rather than rested.
I think that was with Oregon, right? Like, don't you think that had a little bit to do? I mean, Ohio State's a great team, but like you said, Oregon had that time off. Man, they looked like they were still in the clubhouse.
Well, from a game speed standpoint, you're 1,000% right. It took them a quarter and a half to wake up, and Ohio State looked like they came off the big win at home, which they did against Tennessee. So that's going to be the one aspect about this playoff. And I think there's some tweaks coming because clearly having the 4 teams with byes that they did probably not all of them were worthy of it, like a Boise State. Certainly Oregon, as the number 1 seed, had the most difficult path, and Penn State really fortunate the way things work out with the seeding for them. But, I would probably lean towards Notre Dame in this game against Georgia. Obviously, unusual circumstances. I would say the one thing about Georgia that we don't know is how Gunnar Stockton's going to look throwing the football against a good passing defense. We know that Notre Dame runs the football well, and we know Georgia can stop the run. So can anybody pass the football in this game? But I think you're right, Matt. If Georgia goes down to defeat, it's another team that enjoyed a bye that really didn't look very good coming out of that long break and this crazy new 12-team format that we're trying to figure out on the fly.
Hey, you had a pretty good Texas Bowl with Baylor and LSU. Looked like neither team could really stop the other from throwing the ball successfully, but 75 points. You had quite the game there.
It was bizarre. I think we had a bingo card of bizarre because we had a kickoff return for a touchdown. We had a punt return for a touchdown that was called back. We had a blocked field goal. We had a missed extra point. We had a 36-yard loss on 4th and 1. And that was just a handful of what we saw take place. But I think the one theme in that game, Phil, is the same theme that we have seen off and on throughout these entire postseason games, whether they're regular bowl games or not. Special teams has been wildly important. Teams have made plays, kickoff returns, punt returns. People can't figure out how to get off the freaking field. Texas giving up a 36-yard pass to a fat guy who's not even a skill player yesterday. It can't happen. Texas has a real good field goal kicker. He couldn't make anything. Arizona State can't make a field goal if you beg them to do so. So I don't know what's going on with this lull in special teams, but it has been so impactful in so many games, both good and bad. I don't know if these special team coordinators have just taken off these last couple of weeks, or in all the transition, you're moving players onto the special teams units that haven't been there because of the portal or whatnot. But, wow, you can't watch a bowl game without 2 or 3 wild special teams plays that seem to have great impacts.
Brett, we're right here as far as Saturday will be opening SEC basketball conference play. What are expectations if you're a Razorback fan? Coach Cal's first year here. I mean, all new players. I think Brazil might be playing his best ball in a Razorback uniform. Can this Razorback team have a 500 or better record this year in conference play?
I think it's a pretty good number to shoot for, and maybe that's not exciting or sexy, but we do know this league is at an all-time high. So I think you've got to be able to win at home quite a bit because winning on the road is really going to be difficult. You have to avoid stretches where you don't play well. And for me, Matt, I think that means for Arkansas being healthy. I mean, you don't want Brazil to be playing better and have Adu miss some games, or see Wagner play better but have Nelly Davis, this unknown if he's going to play or if he's still sitting. He's been out for a couple of weeks. I would hope it would be go time, but who knows right now. Arkansas's been playing about a man or two down throughout the entire year, and it's been different players, and it's been different injuries, and ankle injuries, and wrists, and foots, and whatnot. I'm hoping that they're getting to that point where at least that is behind them, because they don't want to go into this league schedule and constantly be missing Big Z for 2 weeks or Nelly Davis for a couple of weeks. And I think 500 is a pretty good moniker, and it may not sound that way, but a 500 league record probably gets you a pretty good seed in the NCAA tournament and still a great chance then to get to a Sweet 16.
I don't say that the season hinges upon this, but when they brought in Nelly Davis to be, a guy to score in the upper teens at the very least on a consistent basis. And he just hasn't been that player because I don't think he's been healthy at all for a while now since, whatever happened before the season started for this wrist injury. And now keeping him out for the last couple of the weeks, they're getting him ready for Saturday. I would anticipate, but man, I just wonder if this is what it's going to be like for him all season long. Because when it comes to a wrist, Brett, it's like the same for a hitter. If it's your shooting wrist and it's your power wrist for a hitter, you're a different player.
And it feels like a hamstring injury as well. It just never fully heels and you're feeling okay, but you're always concerned that one bad movement or bad game might kind of set you back again when you're starting that process over. And I think when you're a coach, and it doesn't matter if you're Cal with this basketball team or you're Sam with a football team, when you're going into the portal, you're putting your pieces together, and you're saying, I need a big guy, I need an outside shooter, I need this complement. And then you do so, and when you're constantly missing these pieces, your team doesn't look like you envisioned it would. And without Nellie Davis, I think that's one more scoring element, one more perimeter shooter that Arkansas doesn't have. And I'm with you, Phil. I don't know if this thing is healed. I would say when he didn't play against Oakland, that gave me pause, only because I thought he would want a game before the league play to kind of get back up to game speed. That same thing we were just talking about with college football, how hard it is to sit and then jump in and not look like you have not been playing games for a period of time. But then again, if that thing's not right, I'm sure they're looking at the last opportunity against an Oakland team, which was a winnable game, before they really have to have him play, even if he's not 100%. But it's not a terribly deep team, and they've invested a lot in some of these players, and I hope for Arkansas' sake that they can at least be to that point where they can go out there and compete without having to miss too much time.
I'll just close with a thought here that I never thought about it this way until I started broadcasting college baseball games. Once we get to the new year, now it's not a matter, pitchers and catchers in 45 days. No, games, like actual games, are coming up in less than 6 weeks. And I'm starting to get, the questions are starting to fly out from Twitter and wherever, just people that I'm bumping into at basketball games and whatnot. I feel like they're always anticipating baseball season here, but there's just a little something to it right now. Feels like a little more heavier anticipation than usual.
You and I think a lot alike when it comes to that baseball thing, because I was having a conversation just today. When it gets to January 1st or 2nd, as much as it feels like it's the beginning of conference basketball season, we're almost just a month away from being go time in college baseball. So I pulled my scorebook out today and was looking to see if I had enough pages or I needed a new one. And even though it may get cold and dreary, we'll play basketball, and in a couple of weeks, it will really feel like we're bending towards the start of a season. So I'm with you. It doesn't take me long post January 1 before I start thinking about college baseball in a new season.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here.